Hello everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Sunday. In light of what happened on September 10th in Utah, I want to take this moment to wish Charlie Kirk eternal peace with our Heavenly Father. I used to watch a lot of his videos back in 2020 to 2022 and kind of fell off around that time because of the samey direction of owning the libs. I understand the purpose of what he was trying to do. De-radicalize the nation with open discussion and being able to disagree with people without spiraling into madness. But with every plan, there is always a downside, and it's never guaranteed. While you could say the humiliation of losing a debate could make a person rethink their worldview, however, no one really questioned what if they don't? What if that person is so married to the idea of Marxism progressivism, just like how you're married to the idea of Christ? What if that loss makes them reinforce themselves and their ideology even deeper, much like a Christian would if confronted about their worldview in Jesus? As much as I appreciate Charlie's bravery and patience to debate with people whose ideology is quite literally a construct created by a welfare baby born into wealth with all the advantages in life, there was fundamentally a flaw in the design. However, we can't ignore the benefits it had on culture. Pushing young people to challenge and push themselves and question themselves, to ground themselves in reality that while we may live in the greatest country in the world, we are still in fact human, and therefore not perfect. So to Charlie, rest in peace, sir. Your time on this earth is done. May your wife and children find everlasting peace within themselves and stay grounded in God's realm of spiritual teachings. With that out of the way, I want to talk about a certain group of people. People James Lindsay would like to call the dissenting right. I'll give you an example of their behavioral patterns since they are into pattern recognition and racial awareness so much. Let's say, if you will, there is this catcher, or vet. This vet is fundamentally ignorant, incompetent, but dangerously good with words where he can say one thing but mean another. He strolls in the town where he becomes the town's vet. He's very fond working with pit bulls. In fact, he goes out his way to only work with pit bulls. Now, our vet does more than veterinarian work. He's also a behavioral specialist who uses his talents in this field to train pit bulls to be more aggressive when in possession of their original masters. Because of this, their masters put them down, unknowing of their behaviors are being manipulated. But the procedure is too costly for most, so they leave them abandoned. Next thing you know, these same pit bulls attack and kill the townspeople, day after day being reported on the news as a daily occurrence. So often, in fact, it's chilling. So chilling that the townspeople start to build fear of pit bulls, a breed that was popular in the town for quite some time. Then the media brings in their town's vet, the same vet who had had a hand in infecting these pit bulls with these behaviors with his expertise in his fields. The media asks, "What do you think of this uptick in pit bull attacks?" His answer, ever so slightly to say he was responsible, but he wasn't. Maybe someone in town had a hand in manipulating their behaviors. But to throw off the scent, he pivots, and that person is the town itself. He starts to seize the opportunity to weaponize the town's generalization of pit bulls in his favor, stating that the fear of them was there since the very beginning. Something systematic and oppressive, causing division amongst the people. Those who fear, those who don't fear, those who understand animal behaviors, and those who call themselves experts of the field since yesterday. Those who believe the owners are to blame, those who believe the blamers of the owners are the blame. The town spiraling out of control from the very man who started it all. And yet, a faction of townsfolk were able to deduce that the vet was clearly the culprit, because the town valued their pit bulls before all this. But there was a problem with this faction, because it's a faction within a faction. The people who knew the vet was lying, had the stigma of pit bulls already instilled into them. while the others were still able to differentiate between the good ones and the bad ones. While others proclaimed the vet was to blame, the others chose to stick with aiming their anger at the pit bulls. Confused, one asks, you know who is responsible, and yet you aim all your anger at the victims of his amalgamations. Why not go after the vet who clearly has done this to these animals? The man from the other faction proclaims, because these animals are vicious and cruel and serve no purpose to our society. There is a way better breed that won't do these things, a chosen breed of the people. So the woman from the other side interjected, it's because they are cowards. They choose to go after pit bulls instead of the vet, because the vet is friends with the mayor, who is friends with the police chief, who was friends with several high-ranking members within the National Guard. To attack the vet is to deal with teeth so long and jagged that the second they sink in, it would surely mean death. While the pit bull, yes, can be dangerous, the marks will serve as participation trophies of being good people in a time of a great crisis. On top of the fact that they have split the goodwill with the people to the point who would come to their aid, making them easier targets. Now the question we have to ask is, why? Being a coward isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's okay to feel afraid. But you must not let your fear control your behaviors to become irrational. But there are, in fact, cowards on the right side of the political spectrum. That when someone white dies, surrounded by whites, it's what could they do? They would be arrested for defending themselves, or they're just looking out for themselves. Yet at the same time, if blacks didn't do anything around a white person dying, they're all fucking useless. This is projection. Because the useless person is the one who doesn't go after the vet, but chooses to go after the demographic that already has a bad stigma around them. Black people. Why? Because it's easier. If she went after the vet, or the government, who surely had a hand in destroying her country, there would be a knock on the door with a warrant for her arrest. They have seen what has happened to people who choose to rival the state. Why tackle the blackness that is government when you can attack something more feasible? Something that if you did kill it, or you did scrutinize it, or attack it in any way, shape, or form, a lot of people wouldn't bat an eye. In fact, you'd probably receive a GoFundMe of over $10 million for saving America from the dog on the leash. But never against that man who held the leash. That man who was responsible for poisoning that person on the leash. You'll never raise your hand against that man because you're cowards. I know this, and your government knows this. These aren't signs that they're losing control. They still have control. No legislation can be concocted to outlaw an ideology who specializes in infestation. And if you're silly enough to think that the right cannot be infected, you're more than likely infected yourself. At this time, we have people milking this man's death to the point of disgust. And it's quite clear it's milking someone's death. Especially with people like Young Rippa, who I used to respect. Where clearly this man's channel is declining. Now, at first, my benefit of the doubt was, well, he's working on his company with his own comic book. So clearly he doesn't have the time to make videos, given the time gap in uploads in previous videos. Only to find out he clearly has the time to make videos, so long as he can garner an audience from it. His Social Blade even shows this, showing a loss in viewership for what he is, only to be the voice for political topics. And typically channels like this are often filled with people speaking in code about the Jews. And I find it funny, a lot of these anti-woke channels spend more time talking about race in the threads of their comment sections than they do about the ideology that talks about race. I'm guessing they took a page from Ibram Kennedy that it's not enough to be against woke. You must be anti-woke. which is a spin on his "you must be anti-racist" quote, which we all know what the end conclusion of that was, is that it made racists. So I think it's fair to say that there are Marxists on the right. Now, am I calling Ripoll a Marxist? No. I'm not calling him directly a Marxist. I'm going to need a little bit more proof than what he is currently doing right now. Right now, he's just kind of... I don't condone that type of practice when it comes to a person's death. One video is fine. Constant uploads when your channel's been kind of like dying out, that kind of just screams, I'm looking for attention and I don't really care about the person. So that's why I kind of unsubscribed from him. It seems like a lot of these people with no father figures haven't really heard of the old tale of hunting beasts. Because if your response isn't extreme to their extreme response, you're no different. Which only justifies the other side's position that capitalists are evil. And by capitalists, they mean right-wing Marxists. And please do not be in the comment section saying, Marxism is a left-wing ideology, that's an oxymoron. Because clearly the moron would be you for thinking no one outside the leftist bubble wouldn't kill for the ultimate power of political power, the same way that these people have. We clearly have an anti-woke network that coordinates their videos on release to control narratives themselves. This is why you have a lot of people defending Andrew Tate of being a sex trafficker and pedophile, despite the man himself stating he's been working with someone who is 21 and met them 5 or 6 years ago.
This video about Vivian, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
At it where I've had girls who say, oh, I know you're with Vivian, I know you've been with her a long time, I don't mind, I'll stay out tonight, you two stay alone, all that shit, but it never lasts long. Because the ones who are really in love with you won't do that. You actually have to downplay your relationship with the girl of 6 years. And I only get away with that because the girl of 6 years plays along. So Vivian's been with me
So he's been with Vivian for 6 years, right?
completely head over heels in love with me, she wants kids with me, everything. And we met and we fell, whatever, we're in love. But when a new girl comes, when I bring on new girls, I usually pair them with Vivian. Because Vivian's younger. Melissa's like 28, Vivian's like 21.
Vivian's 21. And at this point, he's been her girlfriend for 6 years. So you do the math. It means that they met when she was 15 years old.
You do the math. Which is him admitting he is doing sexual acts with minors. This is why morons like you always lean on, but where are the burning buildings excuse? Because you don't want them to understand the underlying network you manipulate them with in the same fashion CNN and Fox News does. Now, how do you think a large portion of young men on the right defend this man? It's not just their lived experiences. It requires influencers, a network of disinformation, misinformation, that justifies their views of not being able to be married and having girlfriends. Because ultimately, this circle is filled with cowards. And when you have a faction that is unable to reflect not only on their group, but themselves, it's not a movement, it's not a group, it's not a community, it's a cult. Thank you.